What's going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Tim Hyde for this week's Notre Dame football show on our YouTube channel. And appreciate you folks watching back via podcast as well. Got a really good show lined up today. We'll talk Joe Rudolph, get our staff's reaction to that. Unless there's any changes, Notre Dame's coaching staff for the 2023 season is complete. And we'll also talk about some spring position battle previews. Spring ball starts March 22nd. So, hey, spring ball is just right around the corner, and so we'll dive into some of those topics as well. Plus, kind of the headline of this week's show is a Buchner versus Hartman deal. I think last week at the end of our show with myself, Tim Hyde, and Mike Goolsby, we kind of previewed that we're going to talk about it next week. So we will bring on Captain Mike shortly. Folks, hope you are doing well watching live or watching back. Please do hit that thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Please do go over to blueandgold.com. Spring ball coverage on our site will be fantastic. We'll have the most boots on the ground than any website out there, and we'll have some excellent YouTube coverage as well. So make sure you lock in right here. Tim, I hope you are doing well, my friend. How's your week?
Yeah, doing really good. I'm excited for tonight because our main topic is the conversation, Goolsby and I got hyped up about right after the bowl game. So just looking forward to chatting with that. I mean, really exciting just talking about quarterback anytime with Notre Dame, and then ecstatic about this offensive line hire. I can't wait to break him down and get into him. He's a hell of a football coach. So really excited.
All right, let's go ahead and bring him in, Captain Mike. Mr. Goolsby, how are you doing, sir?
What's up, Singer? What's up, Tim?
Good evening.
So, the opening topic for our show is this new offensive line coach hire. You guys know how I feel about this. I like a coach with some gray hair to kind of round out, Notre Dame's youthfulness on its staff. So, Tim, I'll go to you first. Just reaction to Notre Dame. And should be noted that, several reports, including on 3, say that, Rudolph is leaving his post at Virginia Tech to become Notre Dame's new offensive line coach. Not official yet, but it is expected to head that way. So assuming this happens, Tim, what would be your reaction?
Oh, I'm ecstatic. Seriously, he was the first guy I posted, like when Coach Easton retired. I think I was on the message board right away, saw people just, the sky is falling, things of that nature. And I was just like, Joe Rudolph or bust. I was like, seriously, I think he's the premier football coaches out there when it comes to offensive line. I've studied him over the years, heard him clinic. There's tons of stuff on YouTube to learn from him. The dude is a legit offensive line coach. And I'm a big believer in upbringing. Who's raised you basically in the football world? And when you look at Coach Rudolph, number one, being a big Notre Dame fan out there is, guys, he played for Barry Alvarez.
For sure.
He was in Barry Alvarez's first recruiting class. Chris Zorich was just on here a couple of weeks ago raving about Coach Alvarez and what he meant to Notre Dame and whatnot, for that entire defense. So he's in Coach Alvarez's first recruiting class, goes to the Rose Bowl, wins the Rose Bowl, goes to the NFL. Who does he learn under in the NFL? Well, when you listen to him talk, I'll send you guys some videos just to listen to him. He sounds like John Gruden. Well, who was his offensive coordinator in the NFL? John Gruden. His offensive line coach in the NFL for a couple of years with the Eagles, and his offensive line coach under Barry Alvarez, Bill Callahan. Probably the best offensive line coach in the NFL over the last 20 years, or however long he's been coaching. So huge pedigree from there. And then when he gets into coaching, he's obviously at Ohio State. Learns under the guy that, Marcus Freeman played for, Jim Tressel. I have huge respect for Jim Tressel. I think he's an outstanding football coach. And the guy that he learned from was Tressel's right-hand man running the ball, and Jim Bowman. So I could sit here and talk for hours on him. I think he's a heck of a football coach. His background is unbelievable. The way he teaches is unbelievable. And his resume. How is Notre Dame fans just not doing backflips getting this guy? He's coached I was telling Goolsby, he's taking guys ranked like 1,500 on Rivals, and they're in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. So he's coached tight ends. Check this out. He has a Mackey Award finalist, and he's coached a Remington Award winner. How many guys in college football can say they've coached a guy that, basically is up for the best tight end and one of the premier offensive linemen? He's outstanding football coach, people. And if you're listening and you're just worried about, what's Freeman doing? Had Marcus Freeman hired Joe Rudolph last year, people would have said A+. Easy as that. So I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to see him start coaching.
Well,
and it's a heck of an offensive line.
Tim, why do you think people would say A+ last year but not this year?
Oh, well, he's coming in because of, the lead, it always goes back to Ludwig. People are going to be, we could have had Ludwig. I'm telling you, Coach Rudolph's a better football coach than the Utah guys. He is. I'll say it right now. I'd rather, you know what? Is it, and this is one of your coaching things. I'm getting fired up because I've been I've been hyped on Rudolph for the last week since all this Ludwig thing didn't go down. And I'm just like, please, Freeman, get this guy because he's a head football coach. Is Notre Dame better today? This is what I would like to know. Is Notre Dame better today with him as the O-line coach, with Parker, with one of the best quarterback coaches out there that's developed quarterbacks at Cincinnati and Gino Guidugli? Or is it better with Ludwig and his O-line coach at Utah? It's pretty good coaching staff he's put together. And I hope people really look at this group of what Freeman's put together. And I love Luke Fickell. You got a lot of guys with Luke Fickell trademarks, and you got a lot of guys that Tressel, Urban Meyer, those types of tentacles once again. And Rudolph has those in his background.
Goolsby?
Tim, looking at Rudolph's coaching career thus far, what's his most notable, biggest and best stop? Would it be Wisconsin?
Oh God, yeah. Yes. Which is funny because, he was at Pitt with Paul Chris, and they're a missed field goal away in 2012 from beating, Notre Dame. Remember that famous 3 overtime game Everett Golson had to take over. So his Pitt years were pretty good. He was only there for a couple of years, Oh yeah. I mean, definitely Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin right there. He coaches tight ends at Wisconsin. He has 3 guys drafted, 3 tight ends drafted in a row at Wisconsin. 2 of them are consensus All-Americans. So it's just like, it's crazy, the guys that he has coached, and then his offensive lines at Wisconsin, man. That's the thing. When I got excited about Rudolph, and people were like, well, they had a bad 2021, and why did he go to Virginia Tech? We could get into that. I have some philosophies. That's what coaches do sometimes. But when you think Wisconsin, man, like I texted you, Mike Goolsby, it's like people play 12 in the box against Wisconsin, right? Yeah. Everyone people think, well, Notre Dame with guys in the box. Wisconsin, all they do is run the ball. They're literally, there's a couple of years, they're almost 70-30 run percentage. 70-30.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. Sometimes it's hard to watch.
But everyone knows they're going to smash the ball down your throat.
Yeah. And I've watched a lot of Badger football.
So that's what's so impressive real quick about him is what's coming, and we're going to come right at you. Now, obviously, that's Alvarez, Coach Bielema, but they kept it going as well. So that's that culture going back. But Joe Rudolph was a part of that culture. He was on the first Rose Bowl team in 40 years at Wisconsin or whatever the heck it is. So Rudolph.
The reason I asked, take a breath, Tim. God damn.
Oh, I'm fired up. I'm excited.
The reason I ask about what's the most notable stop, because Notre Dame trumps all of those previous stops. And so for Coach Rudolph that had some measured success at a program like a Wisconsin, which is, it's a nice program, but it ain't Notre Dame. He kind of gets derailed, has a pit stop at Virginia Tech. I think to get an opportunity like this, Tim, is huge for a guy, in his early 50s. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for him. A couple just random thoughts about, and I'm putting a lot of focus on Wisconsin. Wisconsin to me, and I've watched a lot of Badger football. My girlfriend's a Badger alum. So I've watched back. And they'll play multiples, but there's always that one stud back. You could name 5 or 6 of them off the top of your head. Braylon Allen is the flavor of the week, the most recent one. Jonathan Taylor prior to, Melvin Gordon before him, you name it.
Yeah,
I think that bodes well for Estime personally. Selfishly, that's something I'm kind of looking forward to. You didn't touch on Coach Rudolph as a recruiter, and I've heard great things. And I think that we know this, Tim, especially just kind of spending time on those message boards. Notre Dame fans can tend to lean negatively The worst case scenario, doomsday approach. It is what it is, right? It's part of being a fan. I can empathize with it. I tend to think that like Coach Hiestand might have been a little bit overvalued holistically as a coach. Like great coach, good man. Obviously, he's got guys in the NFL that would take a bullet for him. But who was he as a recruiter? I think we all kind of make concessions for Coach Hiestand and his lack of a motor, lack of energy as a recruiter. I don't think you're gonna have to deal with that with Coach Rudolph. And I want to like weave that into the opportunity that is Notre Dame. I think the guy's got a motor as a recruiter in like his territory, from what I understand as a recruiter, PA, Midwest, et cetera. Like that just O-line, it's just such a natural fit, Mike, for a school like a Notre Dame. Yep. So I think that's something that's exciting. I think he gets the Notre Dame culture through that connection with Coach Alvarez, having been a DC under Holtz. There's a lot of things to be optimistic about. And then I think the last thing with Coach Rudolph is, this, Mike, and I think it's important to you, is that gray hair factor. That's a young staff.
And he's 50. And that's a good age. It's a good age.
So he's not disconnected. He's not a year or two out from retirement like Harry was. Mm-hmm. He's still relevant. I think he looks at this as a blessing, kind of coming off of that little bit of derailment at Virginia Tech. And then one other point, he's another one of Freeman's guys, in a roundabout way, like there's a trust factor there. So like all of the vestiges of Brian Kelly are kind of now gone. This is Freeman's baby. So that's another thing to kind of be optimistic about. I mean, it's truly is Freeman's show at this point.
I want to bounce right off of that, Goolsby. It's a perfect point. People say, was he GA? Did he know Freeman? Yeah, he was a strength coach. So he darn well knew Marcus Freeman. Back in those days, your GAs were strength coaches. That's how they got an extra stipend or whatnot. I know some guys who've done that at SC that were GA strength or as a way to get in. So he was, on his resume, it's a strength coach, and you look it up, he was a strength coach. So obviously he knows him. And who is Marcus Freeman going to call every single time there's something to talk about? Coach Tressel. Well, once again, who's his right-hand man, offensive line? Coach Bowman, who's still out there coaching. I'm sure they just said, man, you got to go get Rudolph. So I found this fascinating little tidbit here I started doing. Obviously, you mentioned Western PA. Well, the two great offensive line coaches in the last 30 years, Joe Moore, Harry Hiestand, both Pennsylvania guys as well. So, Joe Moore is a legendary in Pennsylvania. But the Joe Moore Award has been around since 2015. And with Joe Rudolph, I found this fascinating. There has been 47 teams have been nominated. Semifinalists, finalists, obviously a winner. So I just say nominations. 47 teams have been nominated. I know a couple guys on the committee, and these guys take, great pride in putting this out. Guess who has the most nominations? Joe Rudolph in Wisconsin. They've never won it. He's got 5 nominations. Only Alabama with 6 have more than Wisconsin since 2015. Notre Dame's O-line U, they got 4. So I just found that fascinating. With Joe Rudolph has been nominated 5 times as the offensive line of the year. And I just think it's a great testament to him, what they did at Wisconsin. And you mentioned the running backs. Yeah, they had great running backs, but they got some dudes up front blocking, and those guys are in the NFL. They got the center was the Pro Bowl. Ramczyk has been a 3-time All-Pro. So they have a handful of guys that are big-time performers in the NFL as well. But I just found that real quick on the Joe Moore Award. Just some fascinating little tidbits about Joe Rudolph.
One more thing I want to touch on before we move along and talk about the staff as a whole is he's got offense coordinator experience, right, with Pitt and Wisconsin. I don't know exactly. Was he the offensive line, or was he the coordinator for
O-line
for all these years, 15 to 20?
Yeah. I mean, Paul Chris, they always say, obviously called everything, but he ran the meetings and, that type of role and whatnot.
I do think it's important to mention you have Jared Parker, who, again, we can talk about his offense coordinator experience at West Virginia. Seems kind of, from what Parker said in his press conference, it just kind of seemed a little, I don't know what to call it, like a crap. Like it was just a piece of crap, like whatever that whole situation was. But still, offense coordinator experience. Gino Guidugli's got offense coordinator experience this past season. and Joe Rudolph does, I think you got a really good a combination of the youth with the experience, an offense coordinator. I think it's good little three-headed monster. I think Parker and Goolsby are going to work really well together, and I don't think they would have hired Rudolph if that wouldn't have been the case either, Mike.
I agree.
One other kind of thought. This will be fun to kind of watch this evolve. Somebody's going to call the play, right? But the collective in terms of building an offense, building a game plan week to week, that should be fun to watch. Like you had mentioned, Tim, at Wisconsin, sometimes it's 70% run, 30% pass. Our previous offensive coordinator, Coach Reese, we all kind of felt like he wanted to throw the ball. That was, different passing combos, kind of an NFL type system. It's just going to be fun to see how this thing comes together, where you've got a lot of young coaches. Hopefully there's no real, big egos in that room, and they come together as a collective and find creative ways. I mean, Wisconsin pulls people, like when's the last time you saw a pulling guard, Tim, watching a Notre Dame game? So that'll be fun. But yeah, I'm absolutely optimistic here. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Moving along. Just kind of Notre Dame staff as a whole. This is just for folks watching on YouTube, this is just the staff that's official so far. And I don't even think Goolsby's on here yet, but yeah. So you got Reese and he stand out. Parker, tight ends coach, elevated to offensive coordinator as well. Goolsby replaces Reese. And then you have Joe Rudolph coming in for he stand. Tim, would you say let's say Notre Dame doesn't have any changes going into the season, how does your opinion of this team change with the new coaching staff? Like if it were the old staff going into this season versus this staff, I mean, it's hard to say right now, but Tim, do you have any sense right now that, hey, this team's going to be better with this staff or not? Any feeling on that, Tim?
I don't want to say so much better. I mean, well, they should be better. Don't lose to Marshall and Stanford, and you'll be better. But you know what? That's an interesting question, Mike, because I've been looking at this basically over these last couple of weeks since Reese, went to Alabama and Harry Hiestand, retired 30 seconds after that. So, which led me to believe. I mean, we've always known Reese was going to be gone, right? So did Reese go and get Hiestand and he probably told Harry, hey, I may only be here 1 year. I'm going to interview. I'm going to be looking around. Come help me out. Help me get this thing rolling, and then you leave when I leave. So I'm starting to look at this 2023 is this year one? I mean, going back to Goolsby, he's got a bunch of guys that he's been with, a lot of guys with ties to Fickle, Tressel, his past. This really reminds me a lot of, going back to Bob Davie, Bob Davie's first staff.
Please don't, but yeah, go ahead.
No, but he had some great coaches though, Mike, didn't he?
You're exact, yeah.
He had some ball coaches on his staff, and that's what I was thinking about. Just ball.
Sure.
He had some dudes: Urban Meyer, Charlie Strong, Madison, who you've raved about. He had some dudes. Kurt Dahl was an awesome coach, but I don't know. I get the feeling that this is like year one. This is like year one with all these guys, and the fact that Reese. It's more Harry kind of just leaving so quick after Reese. Those two maybe had a little combo thing, like, hey, help me out and we'll move on. So I'm excited for Freeman. And that's going back to, taking the whole Andy Ludwig thing, just throwing out the door. These are some good ball coaches that he's brought in. So people want to boo-hoo and stay on the Ludwig thing and the negativity, but these are some darn good ball coaches that have replaced Coach Hiestand and Tommy Reese.
Yeah, and I think it depends on how people gauge things, Tim and Mike, what kind of matters to them in terms of how they're going to evaluate or come up with an opinion. But when I look at this staff, again, I see the youth, but I just look at it, Tim, these are all guys that want to be here.
It seems
I mean, let's not overstate that or understate that rather. These are guys that want to be here. This is you look at Coach Stuckey. Whoa, hey, Singer.
Sorry.
You look at Coach Stuckey. You look at Coach Parker, you look at Coach Rudolph, this is the coaching opportunity of a lifetime. These are guys that want to be here. Like Coach Reese, he had one foot out the door and he was kind of looking for an exit. And Hiestand was came out of retirement kind of begrudgingly, 1 year stop. Yeah, was he fully bought in? So that's something that matters to me, is that these guys want to be here. I think it's an opportunity of a lifetime, kind of renewed energy in that room. So I think you could make a case, Mike, that they're better off this year than last. Absolutely.
Two other guys off of that, you look at Coach McCullough. I mean, Coach McCullough with his obviously Super Bowl with the Chiefs and whatnot, he's getting calls. I mean,
I texted you, Tim. He's the next one to go.
Oh, he's the next one, and everyone just assumed he was going to be gone with all these things, but he's probably like, man, I could stay here one more year. I got these backs.
My thoughts, him or Golden. I think him or Golden are next. Golden wants to be a head coach somewhere or get back in the NFL. Exactly. And McCullough's trajectory is this, and then I would say after that probably Stuckey.
And Stuckey's the South. I remember reading a month ago, I think it was on Football Scoop, where Auburn came hard at him, and he's like, no, I'm staying. So you got an SEC school coming after a guy from the South, and he's staying at Notre Dame for another year. Yeah, these guys are going to go all in, going back to our main topic tonight, going all in for 2023.
But going back to last topic here, and this kind of goes back to Coach Rudolph talking offensive line. What I'm kind of saying here is like, this is a group of guys that wants to be here. I do think there's going to be somewhat of a collective in terms of the framework of the offense because of like a lack of ego. And Tim, you know this better than anybody. I mean, coaches have egos, and it can be destructive. I hope I don't see that in this group. But like this offensive line group, guys, this is their third O-line coach in 3 years.
Yes.
So it's like when I talk about guys that want to be here, I think Coach Stuckey is like super important to develop this like young group of wide receivers to have some consistency, some uniformity. And Coach Rudolph, I think, is huge. Like, please stick around for 3-4 years so we can, pick a direction offensive line wise and stick to it. So
I agree. Great points. I think it's a heck of a group of coaches, and let's get after this 2023 season. It's a good group of football coaches, I believe.
Yeah, Nathan says, was Hiestand leaving because Tom Reese went to Bama? Crappy move. That's basically what that was what you opined there, Ghouls, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Harry kind of did Tommy a favor.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Harry's a great coach, but I mean, you go from Coach Quinn, his methodology, you've got Harry's methodology, and now you've got to retrain a group of offensive linemen with Coach Rudolph. And again, it's just like, let's find a measure of consistency here for that group,
Well, just, quick 30 seconds on recruiting, Mike, is it? Well, I mean,
start the clock.
It started. Oh, this is an easy one. I mean, he's standing with one foot out the door waiting on Tommy, not knowing how long he's going to be. I mean, look at the offensive line offers. Obviously, he was out on the road. He did recruiting and whatnot. But Notre Dame's offered, it feels like, his mini O-lineman the last couple of weeks than they did, the last few months with Harry combined. So, that's going back to, Singer's world with recruiting is Rudolph's going to get after this thing. I truly believe that.
Yeah, and people I talk to about Rudolph say that he's just a good, steady guy. Like, he's not – highs aren't too high, lows aren't too low. He's not going to slack off. He's not going to beat your door down in an annoying way. He's just a good, solid recruiter. And he obviously did pretty well, at Wisconsin. Just covering Notre Dame, lots of battles between the two with offensive linemen. And Wisconsin got the better of Notre Dame sometimes. It's always tough to go into Wisconsin and beat out the Badgers for those in-state players, especially on the offensive line. The Irish did get Billy Schrouth, which was the first player they'd signed from Wisconsin in like 2 decades, which was crazy. But guys like Joe Brunner, Notre Dame badly wanted. Nolan Rucci is a 5-star in the 2021 class, I believe. Wisconsin got him. And I believe Rucci's dad played at Penn State. So it was a really good recruiting win for Joe Rudolph. So yeah, I think he's going to be a solid recruiter. I think he's going to fit in well. Again, everyone I talked to about him, just a good, solid dude. And, if he was a good recruiter at Wisconsin, he's only going to be better at Notre Dame because of the O-line traditions are great at both schools. But now you're on Freeman's staff and you have that support around you. I think it's going to bode really well for him.
When you think of Wisconsin O-line, you think technique, you think toughness. Now I think you could sprinkle in quite a bit more of athleticism in terms of what he's going to have access to recruiting at a Notre Dame versus a Wisconsin. So it should all be good stuff.
All right, boys, we are going to take a quick break while I read, or at least you guys are going to take a quick break while we hear from our sponsor over at the Rogue Shop, everyone's favorite, husband and wife outfit. Mr. Rogue and his wife Shar are craft cannabis farmers who specialize in small batch sustainable plant medicine, a true holistic type of small business. They farm and grow everything themselves and do everything by hand. Folks, please do head over to their website if you're interested, rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com. They sell CBD, THC, edibles, tinctures, smokables, bath salts, pain creams, topicals, vapes, candles, soaps, and so much more. Their website also has a 24/7 chat function where customers can ask the owners of the shop any questions they may have. Please go over to rogueshop.com if you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, or anxiety, stress issues. Also use promo code Blue and Gold to get 10% off your order. rogueshop.com. All right, let's bring the boys back in as we discuss the main topic for today's show, which is the look, when I titled this video and the podcast, the quarterback battle.
There he is. There's my guy.
I feel like a lot of people are thinking there's no quarterback battles. It's Hartman's job. So I don't think we're so much here to debate that unless we are. But I think the debate is more about should Notre Dame start Buchner, not will they start Buchner. Goolsby, we'll go to you first because, I think we all kind of know where you stand on this. And then Tim Hyde has been, flopping back and forth like a fish on this one. So I'm interested to hear where his current take stands on this.
Yeah, you're right about Tim. My contention with this whole quarterback situation is, yes, there's going to be a competition, right? But what are the criteria of said competition? My biggest beef with this whole thing is, as Freeman had come out previously and said, we need experience at the quarterback position. And as I said this on a previous episode, their Singer was like, if that's top 2, top 3 criteria in terms of what these coaches are going to base this competition off of, if experience is one of those things, Tyler's screwed. So I would like to know, going into spring, based off of this competition, what is that criteria? What are the 4 or 5 metrics that we're going to use to evaluate these two? That's my issue. One of my issues. And then the big thing that this has kind of morphed into, Tim, where I think you've kind of come to my side, is 2023 versus 2024. So we're going to go all in on 2023 with a rental quarterback, sixth year player in Sam Hartman for what? And then you're basically starting over. Ostensibly, you're starting over in 2024. And Tyler's so unique in that, the kid has no experience. He has very little experience in high school. He's played just a smattering of games throughout his career at Notre Dame. And it's if that kid needs anything, it's game reps. Based off of what I can see watching him play, is he's anxious. He rushes things. He looked much more calm and composed, relaxed in the bowl game. And it's man, that was, encouraging. And it's just I just feel the upside is there with Buchner. I feel Sam Hartman is much more of a finished product. I think that's almost inarguable. And I just think the upside at the position is with Tyler. And I think the upside for the program, gentlemen, is with Tyler, as I believe you kind of ramp up to 2024 being the year. That's where I'm at.
Tim?
Yeah, this whole debate started. I know when Goolsby and I, were chit-chatting.
I got hot, dude. I was hot. Because I felt people were writing Tyler off.
Was that during the Michigan game, or was one of those games?
It was. I texted you guys, be like, all right, boys.
Yeah, Mike muted us, but then we went on our own. So, no, it was, because I know you got mad at me when I think it was after the postgame.
I called you a fake Notre Dame fan. Yeah, I was hot.
Yeah, you were fired up. No, it was the Gator Bowl. The Gator Bowl, when Singer was like, hey, what's your take on Hartman? And I was like, well, he's the starting quarterback.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. And I know that made you mad, and even other Notre Dame fans. Well, there's got to be a competition. Listen, You're not bringing in a 6-year senior. Number one, I've always been stunned. I can't believe I still can't believe he's at Notre Dame. I thought for sure this whole 6-year thing, I still can't understand why you want to play college football for 6 years. But
NIL money.
True. But I thought it was I always thought he was going to go to the NFL. He's going to make a team. He's a damn good quarterback. He's going to make a football team and start working his way up. And the fact that he's at Notre Dame, he's gonna be the guy. So whatever, it's gonna be a fake competition. Oh, the guys are working. Parker's Coach Gino, all these guys are gonna get up there. Oh, they're working hard. We know it's gonna be Hartman, because if Hartman's not the starting quarterback, he's gone after spring. Mm-hmm. He'll just call up an SEC team and say, "Hey, who needs a quarterback?" He'll go play for one of those guys, or he'll go to if the NFL does the NFL still do the old supplemental draft? I don't know if they do after the draft. So he could go those options. And then this whole thing, I totally agree with Goolsby. And you and I really never got into this whole thing is with 2024. Because I'm telling you guys, all these people we're talking about, on the message board and with each other and stuff like that is, well, Buchner, Notre Dame can't go 8-4 again because he could get injured. Well, then what the hell is going to happen in 2024? He's the same quarterback, right? So can he hurt his shoulder again in 2024? So now you're just going to go with Minchie and Steven Jelly. Those two guys are going to get as many reps as us three combined this year. They're going to be on the prep squad, on the scout team, because they're going to be Hartman, trying to hype him up for the Heisman, and Buchner, his second team. So Angeli and Minchie are done. Enjoy your, red, Angeli back-to-back red shirts. And then CJ Carr's coming in. I mean, come on. I mean, Mike Goolsby, I would love to hear Mike talk about playing at Notre Dame with a true freshman quarterback. Mm-hmm. There with Brady Quinn is not easy. It is not easy. So the whole 2024, I'm in agreement with Goolsby. Number one, all these wide receivers are coming back outside of the Caleb Smith guy. They're all coming back. So why didn't Freeman and these guys and them just let's use these quarterbacks? The entire offense can come back in 2024.
Tim, let me stop you. Tim,
guy can come back.
So you would start Tyler Buchner this year?
Yeah, why not? I know. Hey, I never. This whole we have to have a quarterback. Why do you have to? No one's ever really answered this question other than, well, you can't play Pine. Well, he started 10 games. You can't play Buchner. He's going to get injured. Well, then what in the world's going to happen in 2024? Seriously, if Buchner bolts after this spring, then obviously it's Minchie and Jelly are going to battle for backup. But and this is where I'm 1,000 agreement with Goolsby. What is Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame football going to do at quarterback in 2024? You could have an entire offense returning and a quarterback who's down on the scout team.
You're starting over at the quarterback, but if you don't find a way to keep Tyler invested, interested, continued development in 2023, you are basically starting over in 2024 with 3 inexperienced quarterbacks and a bunch of experience around them. For what? For 2023. And it's like that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, okay, we're going to go all in for Sam Hartman in 2023, and it's unfair. Again, it's intellectually dishonest because people online will be like, oh, well, if you play Buchner, you're going to lose 4 games. It's like, based off of what? Like, you can't, like Miss Cleo, you got a crystal ball. Like, you can't, you're just pulling that out of your ass. And then I'm sitting there going like, what's Hartman ever won? What's he ever won? I know he's put up a bunch of statistics, but he's been doing it for 5 years, right? And then, like I said, I mean, I don't pretend to be like quarterback whisperer, but I can watch a game and be like, man, I know Tyler's a better player and he's more accurate than he misses some of these dinks and dunks, and that's just because he's rushing. It's his 3rd, 4th start, I need to see the level of criticism that Tyler's taken when Sam Hartman comes out and plays a poor game. Like, I can't wait. And I'm rooting for Sam if he ends up being the starter. But you got to sit there and go, what are we going to risk in 2023 versus 2024? Mike, your sources seem to believe that, like, we're a championship team this year. I don't believe that. And maybe they only believe that because you brought in Sam Hartman, but he's just one piece. I don't believe that.
Two things in the comments. Like one guy says, well, we're going to score enough points and the backups will play. When has Notre Dame done that in ages? I mean, Notre Dame does not blow people out by 5 touchdowns to play all the backups. And then someone posted up here earlier, one of the guys that did the super chat, well, and Jelly and Minchie are going to be developed. How are you going to be developed running, Navy's offense or Tennessee State? They're not getting reps with the varsity. They're going to get a couple in the spring to get their feet wet, but that's it. They're not getting any in camp. They're going
Tim, development is like probably a word that's
I know
way overused, and like, how do you really truly define development? And I played at a high level, and it's like, and I'm playing linebacker, and it's like, okay, there's practice speed and there's game speed. Yep. There's game speed on the road, night game, week 1 at the Horseshoe, playing Ohio State. And then there's like playing Marshall at home. But I'm just telling you, at the quarterback position, a marquee position, you have to freaking get game reps to develop, period. Like, end of story, So it's like, you're going to put Tyler on the shelf, discount anything he did in that bowl game. And then I'm like a big locker room guy, fellas, and like, Tyler's been busting his ass, fought through injuries, X, Y, and Z. Like, he's one of us. Now we get this like handsome rental quarterback that's like coming in and like, we're just going to give him the keys to the car. Like, I got a problem with that as a leader in a locker room. Me personally, I'm always going to want to get behind my guy personally. That's another element that I don't think is ever really discussed here.
May I?
Yeah,
please.
You guys know the term, or I haven't heard this saying in a while, ever since you could play 4 games and still redshirt. But before, people would always say, if you redshirt a guy, you're just redshirting him for the next coach. It's like, because coaches have such short shelf life. Excuse me. For me, it's like, I'm thinking along the same lines. Dude, I can't worry about 2024 that much. Like, I got to win in 2023. And if Hartman is the best quarterback for this team, I want to win in 2023. Especially if the staff thinks that like they have a fantastic team this year. They think they're going to a college football playoff game, which is what I've been told. I think you have to go with Hartman. And look, all like Alabama, right? They don't have Bryce Young anymore. What are they doing? They're starting over. This is a thing. Unless you want to take a transfer every single year, you're going to have to start over, and you're just going to have to trust that you are developing. And yes, I said that word. I still think it's a real thing. I was told that, this is from my Notre Dame sources, that Sam Hartman coming to Notre Dame is the best thing that could happen to Tyler Buchner and Steve Angeli, so they can watch him be a pro and learn. Okay? That's
Mike,
what I'm told.
So sweet. Like, you're so sweet when it comes to this stuff. I think you're like, you get info, and like, I'm not saying you shouldn't take it as gospel, but maybe you shouldn't take it as gospel. And like, yes, Alabama had Bryce Young, who might be, top 5, number 1 pick, you name it, whatever. Of course they're starting over, but they had Bryce Young in the program and got to that point, and then rinse, wash, repeat, or whatever, right?
Right. So Buchner,
when are we going to have a guy that's been a starter for 2-3 years? You know what I mean? That's like legit. And I think you might have that guy in Tyler.
If it's Hartman, Buchner can be the guy next year, or if he wants to transfer because he's not the guy, then you develop further, or you bring in another transfer. Like, I think you have to concern yourself a little bit with 2024, right? You can't just finish the 2023 season and be like, oh crap, what are we going to do now? But I think your majority of your focus has to be on now.
But the whole
real quick, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say, for me, everything changes next year. Okay. I've been following Notre Dame forever. It's year 3s are big. Okay. Year 3s are big. It's just true in the history of Notre Dame football. I mean, they're big. Next year is the expanded playoffs. 12 teams. All right. The expanded playoffs. Notre Dame's TV contract's up the following year, right? So it'll probably be done before next year or whatnot. What is more important? Making a run this year in year 2, or getting in the the 12 next year. And I'm telling you, you break this thing down however anyone wants to do it, there's really only going to be 2 spots every year because the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get 8 of them. They just are. They're going to suck those things up. The Power Five's got 5. The Group of 5 is number 6. You get 2 SEC, 2 more Big Tens. There's 10 spots. Notre Dame is going to be battling for 2 wild cards. And I'm telling you, 2024 is huge. So I get the Hartman thing. This is what when I was arguing with Goolsby when we first started all this. I get the Hartman thing. I get it. Go all in this year.
Right.
I understand that. But just because you get Sam Hartman doesn't guarantee you 11-1, 12-0.
But it does. But according to everybody else, Tim,
but neither does
everybody else, it does.
Buchner doesn't guarantee anything.
Whoa. Hold on.
He's so injury prone.
Okay. So this is where the argument is going to start getting going.
Here we go.
So the whole thing with the Buchner thing, I totally get that. I completely understand that thing. But what are the law of averages? Goolsby's took calculus at Notre Dame. It's like what? Now maybe not. But anyway, pre-algebra. But we'll go from there. So, I mean, but seriously, what are the odds of getting hurt 2 full years in a row for him? And if he's not the guy, then Mike, if he's not the guy, so basically they really don't trust him to play this year. That's why they brought Hartman in. Let's just be honest. They don't think he's the guy. So what does that do for 2024? You're going to start from scratch. And I bet you $5 are going to have to get another transfer. They are.
And if they win football games, if they do really well in 2023 and 2024 at the transfer, I'm fine, Tim. I'm fine with bringing another transfer.
There you go. So Mike Singer is the recruiting coordinator. It's like, who cares when you start posting about quarterback recruits? You guys are already talking about 2025 recruits. Who cares? Who cares? He's not going to play at Notre Dame.
None of them are ever going to play.
They're not going to play. CJ Carr will not play because of a transfer. Now you just keep this, hamster wheel continually going. And it's like, when does it end?
It's definitely so.
The Jack Cohn thing, Jack Cohn, I totally understood. Totally understood why Cohn had to came in because Jakovic and it was only Pine and Buchner. I totally understood Jack Cohn. This year, and you could have had a competition in the spring. I mean, this whole obviously Hartman's here because Freeman made this decision, right after Stanford, or excuse me, the USC game was the last game this year after USC. So that's why Pine got out of Dodge. They had already made their decision where there was, of what they were going to do next year. So, and now it's up to Buchner. So if Buchner bolts, I think
Singer, Tim, we all agree the biggest knock on Tyler's probably twofold, maybe 2.5. Injury is number 1, right? We all agree in terms of like knocking Tyler. You agree, Mike?
I wouldn't say that's number 1, but continue.
Okay, what's number 1? Play along. What's number 1?
Accuracy, decision making.
Okay, so fine. If that's number 1, I would say that improves with game reps. If the injury history is number 2, stop running him like a quarterback, right? Number 3, inexperience. Okay, now we're getting into pettier things. Nobody has ever told me what Hartman's flaws are. Still to this day, I don't know what his flaws are. He's infallible. So it's like, if we're going to have an honest debate, and I'm not, pointing the finger at you, Mike, but it's like, if we're going to have a debate, it comes back to what I'm talking about earlier. Like, what is the criteria to judge or assess these quarterbacks? It's like, we know what Tyler's shortcomings are for sure. And I'll grant you those. What are Sam's? The guy walks on water. He needs the 6th year. I don't know, man. It just seems a little bit messy.
So you guys are saying the only way for Buchner to show his talent, just play Buchner, right? Or I'm saying the same thing, but about after 2023. Just play Buchner in 2024. Like, get him reps. Like, play him in 2024. Or if he goes, play Minchie, play Angeli. So I'm saying the same thing as you guys, but for 2024. Like, whoever the quarterback is, and that's the best man, play him and let him learn in 2024. So where you guys are like, oh, learn in 2023, and then you'll be so much better in 2024. I'm much more on the what do I have right now? What do I have right now? And Sam Hartman, I think the coaching staff would agree with me, is the better quarterback.
But he's won nothing.
So, okay. So Sam Hartman is the better quarterback in this group. Had he not been here, are you saying, Mike, that Notre Dame cannot go 10-2, 11-1, get to a New Year's Six with the quarterbacks they have? So so that's, to me, that's what this coaching staff truly believes. We can't win in 2023 with any of these quarterbacks. So Steve Angeli is going to go through a second spring, a whole fall camp, all this stuff. He was the backup the whole year behind Pine, getting varsity reps. He can't complete a pass still at Notre Dame.
Tim, I think the difference is, I think maybe they would feel good about Buchner as a 10-2 quarterback, but Hartman as like a 12-0 guy.
And well, you know what?
Unbelievable.
And I hope it happens, because if not, then we are going to find out when they walk off the field in Stanford.
Hey, Singer, gun to your head, right? Gun to your head. What's our record in 2023 with Tyler Buchner? Just have fun. Play along. Play along, would you?
I need to pull up the schedule. I don't know. 9-3, 10-2, something like that.
Yeah, we'll go with 9-3. So what's our record in 2023 with Sam Hartman? Undefeated national champs, right?
I don't think that.
Okay, well, what is it?
Probably 11-1, 10-2.
Okay, so pause. Tim, please.
Okay, I guess.
So if we're gonna go 9-3 with Tyler, and we'll go, what'd you say?
10-2, 11-1.
Okay, whatever. We'll go 11. For my argument, we'll go 10-2.
Okay.
We'll go 10-2 with Sam. Okay. So is that extra win worth starting over in 2024? That's the question.
But I'm not calling the shots. So I'm just telling you, like I think that's what Notre Dame's thinking from what I've been told.
Yeah.
I mean, just
it's going to be fascinating, man.
Because it's not just Hartman. It's not just Hartman on the football team. The quarterback position is obviously very important, but there's question marks all over the field. But
I don't mean to feel like gang up on you here, man. But
no, dude, I am very much enjoying it.
But Goolsby, this is the thing with with a lot of the Notre Dame talking heads, where like so many people, especially on the message board when we chat with all the Notre Dame fans, is everyone just assumes they're 11-1, 12-0 with Hartman. Like who's he throwing it to? Seriously, who's he throwing? Are these wide receivers all of a sudden NFL guys? I mean,
well, then I would just ask, who's Buchner throwing it to?
Exactly.
But it's another year of working and developing with these guys to get ready for 2024. And then D-line, and people want to talk about national championship. Do they not watch the teams that were in the Final Four this year? Does Notre Dame's D-line look like those teams? So these people that, we have Hartman, we're going to go beat everybody. Oh, okay. I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan. I hope they do. I hope we're celebrating like high heck this year. We'll be cheering and doing backflips and everything. Is this seriously a roster that Notre Dame has? It's going to go beat two SEC teams in the playoffs. Be real.
Tim, how is the roster, in your opinion, going to be better in 2024 versus 2023?
It's a whole nother year of playing together, a whole nother year of recruiting, a whole nother year of bringing in some more bodies, and just the whole culture and all that stuff. I'm telling you, I bet you $2 tonight that Notre Dame's going to bring in a transfer quarterback for 2020.
Hot take.
Yeah,
Hot take, Tim. I love it.
They are.
Tim,
because
next year that's what you want Notre Dame next year.
No, it's not about next year.
2024 is the class. You're next year.
Listen, how is Notre Dame going to place Buchner and Jelly Minchie Carr if they don't play him this year? All of a sudden next year they're 100 times better because they sat on the bench and watched a 25-year-old quarterback who's supposedly going to be teaching them. I mean, come on. If Notre Dame's not in the playoffs, Hartman's back in his bags midnight after the Stanford game. He's not playing in a bowl game sticking around. He's going to be down in Arizona training. He's a rental until Stanford.
I tell you, I just feel like this is fun, right?
It is fun.
It's great fodder.
It's fun.
But I was thinking about your boy Joe Alt, Mike, right?
Handsome guy.
And golly, is he good, dude?
Yes,
right? He's like a top 10 pick next year, right? but you're like, how would you convince him to come back? Because he will have another year of eligibility. And it's like, he's so baby faced. I have a difficult time imagining him going into the NFL and blocking these defensive ends just because he's so young looking still, right? I don't know how old he is, right? But like, could you make an argument, Tim, to say, hey, look at what Tyler did in 2023. We're building for 2024. Joe, come on back. This is the year. Blake's coming back. I mean, you could make that case versus like, dude, I did it with Sam Hartman. I'm out. I'm not coming back to break in another quarterback. I mean, he's your best player on your team.
That's what Alabama
behind Sam Hartman, apparently.
Alabama did that in 2020. I mean, they had like 12 dudes all come back that could have went pro.
Because they had a quarterback they believed in, they could see the future with, or whatever. I mean, that's just a fun argument. That's just me being
the Buckeyes on defense could have had 5-6 guys go NFL, and they all came back this year.
This whole discussion really is about like I'm on this year thing. Like I'm all about 2023. Focus on 2024 when it gets there. More on that side. Where you guys are thinking more of the 2-year plan. That's basically what it comes down to, right?
Well, I
want to be in the.
Go ahead.
Hold on, because I want Notre Dame to be in the 12-team playoffs. Notre Dame's not going to go in the 12-team playoffs unless they're 11-1. People are like, oh, they'll go in at 12 or at 10-2. Not if those two losses are to the only ranked teams they play, like in 19 with Georgia and SC, they're not getting, or Michigan, they're not getting in. Notre Dame has to go 11-1, 12-0 to get it. That's my take.
My argument is just, again, don't anoint Sam Hartman, because then you completely discount anything that Tyler's done and the performance that he had in the bowl game, even with a couple boneheaded plays. Bear with me. I'm talking about like building a program under Coach Freeman. So like, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, again, big picture is like, we're going to build a program around our quarterback. Like, you know, like all these other marquee, they've got their stud quarterback for a year or two. He goes in the league, first round pick, and then we get another one. And we do the same thing over and over and over again. At some point, we got to like find a place to stand at the quarterback position. And I just tend to believe like the talent on the team, I think, will kind of mature and peak in 2024, where it's like we've got some serviceable guys that are starting now. But I think once the Freeman's recruiting classes kind of get caught up, I just feel like you're really peaking towards 2024. I just believe that. I just don't think that the talent, like to Tim's point, like interior defensive line, a couple of our linebacker spots, like they're fine players, but they're not elite SEC championship type dudes. They're just not yet. And I think in 2024, we're incrementally closer to being there.
All right, we got some super chats and some comments to read. Tim,
I bet we do.
Tim, any thoughts before we move on to those?
No, go ahead.
All right, got one from Forby Huggins who says, Singer is right. I've never heard my wife say that, but I do appreciate you saying that. Ant VR says, if Sam Hartman starts, where's Tyler Buchner going to transfer with his 4 starts to his name? Is it 4? I think it's 3. 3. Find me the quarterbacks with 4 starts who transferred into starting roles this year. Tim, do you got a true 30 on this?
Yeah, I mean, who says he's going to transfer somewhere to be an instant starter? But I remember at the beginning of the year, Singer, you talked about, I think 51% of college football teams last year had a transfer quarterback starting. So I'm sure Buchner could go somewhere and play.
There's so many Power 5, Group of 5 schools that there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he could find a place. And
he was a top 50. I mean, I could see a guy like Tyler going back to the West Coast. Couldn't you see him just start at Stanford or something like that? I could absolutely see
UCLA, something like that.
Absolutely. UCLA, exactly.
All right, really appreciate the super chats. Truman says, if I'm Audric Estime, how excited am I about the new additions to our coaching staff? Ditto. For Tyler Buchner. Mike, we'll go to you on this because this is something you talked about just earlier in the show.
Well,
I think it was you.
Yeah. Thanks for the super chat, by the way, Truman. If I'm Audric Estime, I think, like I said, I just believe that there's something about that kid's like DNA and his makeup that's special. Like his heart, like I said, he's got a little bit of that Kyron Williams in him to me. I think namely the biggest thing that he ought to be excited about is the fact that Coach Reese is gone and that Coach Reese was so closely tied to Logan Diggs. I think that's it. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Audrick's your leading rusher, leader in touchdowns, and had X number of less touches than Logan. So on a per touch basis, he's much more productive than Diggs has been. And I think, I could make my little argument that like estimate to me kind of more models like a Wisconsin sort of back than Diggs does. I don't think that Diggs is a fine player. I prefer Estimate. I think Estimate can kind of make his own yards, can kind of create some dirty yardage, whereas Logan, it seems like it really needs to be blocked up perfectly. And I just think the last thing is like with the loss of Mayer, whose offense is it now? Is it going to be Sam Hartman's? I don't know. He's here for 6 months, right, Tim, or whatever it is. So somebody's going to take ownership of that huddle and of that offense. And I think Audrick's got the makeup to do that and kind of be a rallying point, the same way kind of Mayer was.
All right. Dennis says Goolsby is so correct.
Go Dennis, go, right?
I don't
Thanks,
know if
Dennis.
there's and then we have the super chat, saying, Singer's correct. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong. I think it's more of just preference. And at the end of the season, I'm sure we'll look back on this debate if we remember it and be like, one of us will be like, oh, see, I was right. Or one of us will be like, oh, well, what if? What if? And then I don't know if you can play that game because it could have been worse if the other person, would have been the guy. So I don't know if there's a right or a wrong necessarily, unless the starting quarterback goes and wins the national championship.
I just want to know, somebody tell me what Sam Hartman's flaws are. Still waiting. So,
have you looked at the man?
Exactly.
Okay. And then Nathan said earlier, I believe Tommy Reese can call plays, but coach ? JP seems like he can get buy-in. I think when you say JP, you mean Jared Parker, what starts with a G. Seems like he can get buy-in and lead an offense and fits better in Marcus Freeman coaching philosophy. I definitely agree with the coaching philosophy. I don't know. Reese seemed kind of like there's the Reese side and then there's the Freeman's. I don't know. That's at least just kind of my feeling. But yeah, I do feel like there's, it's going to be a little bit more camaraderie because I think that, Parker and Freeman are good buddies. I don't know if Freeman and Reese were going and hanging out on a Thursday night, but do you guys have any thoughts on this?
This whole notion that Tommy Reese cannot coach, what happened in the bowl game? He took a quarterback who hadn't played in 110, 112 days, and they had almost 600 yards of offense. So obviously he can coach. He took Drew Pine, who we all watched play football, and they went and won a bunch of football games. They won football games with Drew Pine. Drew Pine, for all his flaws and whatever, if you don't like this stat or whatnot, but Drew Pine finished with the 4th highest passing efficiency in the history of Notre Dame football. Whatever that means, I don't know. But Tommy Reese coached, right? So it's just like, he wasn't a turnover machine. What do you have? 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. It's like this whole thing, and Tommy Reese can't coach. Okay, people want to talk about the scan offense. I remember in the middle of the season, I charted 3 games in a row. 80% of the scans led to touchdowns or first downs. So, and they only did them 8-9 times a game. So it wasn't 47 times like people, want to say. And lastly, on Marcus Freeman, he was hired, going back to, Jack Swarbrick's press conference. One coach was singled out as an influence for Freeman. That was Dabo Swinney. Dabo built a program.
Man, you love Dabo.
I love Dabo.
Love you some Dabo.
Clemson's in the middle of nowhere, and look what the guy has done.
Sure.
The guy could recruit, and he built a program. He built a program from scratch. Clemson was a train wreck, and he's this little spanky wide receiver coach, never coordinated a day in his life, and look what he's done. I think Dabo Swinney's a stud.
I remember when Clemson recruited me in high school, Tim, I was like I've never even heard of Clemson before. I literally had never even,
But that's what he was told, was to recruit, build this program in your image. So what is the rush in 2023? That's what I don't understand.
Me and my wife are actually looking at rental properties down here in the South, and Clemson is one of them that we're looking at purchasing a little condo in. Just because Dabo Swinney, and that program he's built, and I think we'd make a pretty penny on that Notre Dame weekend. So if that happens, I will certainly rent that place out to Notre Dame fans for sure. I think that's going to wrap it up, boys. Any other closing thoughts, Tim?
No, it's a great conversation. Like you said, Mike, there's no right answer, wrong answer. It's preference. I like Marcus Freeman. I like what he's doing. I like the coaching staff. He's recruiting a ton. People are like, a little worried about some of the offers. Man, when you send out this many offers, you're working. You're not just closing your eyes, just throwing out, cards to people. You're working. The staff is working. There's going to be, I can't wait to read all Singer's stuff on recruiting. All these guys are going to be starting to come visit here in the next week. It's going to be awesome. Spring ball in a couple of weeks. Let Freeman build. Let him bring in all these guys. I just hope this quarterback thing doesn't blow up each and every year.
Truman, appreciate the super chat. Says happy birthday to Prince Collie. Look for him to literally be the next Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah. That's the hope.
Can I interject real quick on the super chat?
Yeah, please.
I've seen this ever since they signed Collie. Collie is a will. Sneed is a rover, which is what JOK played. So just to clarify, like Collie is a will. He's not a space player like JOK was and Sneed will be. So like Sneed is going to be the next JOK. If anything, Collie be like your next Jalen Smith. It'd be like a closer comp to me. I don't know if you agree, Tim, but he's much more of an inside player than he is.
Yeah, he's an inside thumper. So
yeah,
going back to that super chat, get him on the field. So that's what I hope we see him flying around this year. His junior year 3, get him out there.
Tim's a big year 3 kind of guy. You're not allowed to do anything in year 2. You have to bypass it. Wait for year 3.
Speaking of year 3, that's Mr. Goolsby. So,
I can remember being a highly touted kid, having to find your way, figure everything out, and you're like, okay, I haven't started for 2 years, Collie, right? You're a butt-kissed winner in high school, like you haven't started. I remember Tim having a conversation with Mickey Marotti and be like, Mick, I need to start. Like, and he was like, all right. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. And it was like, we kind of made a commitment to one another that like, he was going to be on my ass and get everything out of me. And it was like, I sort of like made that commitment in my head. Like, this is my year to start. Cause you had 2 years of just kind of like, this sucks. And like, I train kids and, mentor kids, and you talk about school kids that have some opportunities to go play. They're going to walk on scholarship, whatever. And I'm like, man, Tim, college football is too freaking hard to not start. And hopefully that's where Prince Collie is like, man, he's like, is this stuff worth it if I'm not going to be a starter? And I think that's a healthy conversation for him to have kind of with himself, or even maybe with Coach Bayless, like I did, Coach Marotti. But yeah, the light bulb, it's like, dude, the window's starting to close there, Prince. Like either put up or shut up, and I think there's so many of us that are absolutely rooting for him and waiting for his star to shine.
That's a great point. I love that.
Yep.
Boys,
post that, Singer. That's a heck of an answer right there about year 3. That's perfect.
I mean, we're coming up on year 3 of Tim Hyde at Blue and Gold. This is a big year, Tim. You got to all in on 2023, man.
All in. Tennessee State, Central Michigan. I can't wait for those post-game shows.
Dude, at the end of the day, man, I cannot wait for football. It's like,
so we're done. We got NFL Network. Putting Feinbaum on during the day just to see who he's talking to.
You're a savage, Tim. You are an absolute savage. Tim sent me a text the other day. He's watching 2001 Notre Dame Navy. The YouTube clip.
Dude, Tim is a junkie.
Hey, but guess what? But the reason it came up in the quick story here, it came up in the algorithm because it's all Notre Dame now on my YouTube, and I was like, 2001, Goolsby. All right, I know he's playing special teams. So I click on opening kickoff. Guess who makes the solo tackle on kickoff?
Great tackle, too.
Mike Goolsby. So I sent it to him and says, here you go. I just watched a little bit of it. Yeah, it's always about cleaning the house with the kids. Put a little background noise on.
All right. Well, I think this is a great comment to end on. Singer, get a clue. Get on the Buchner train. I'm on the Buchner train for 2024. That's it.
Great.
All right, boys. Appreciate the show. We'll have plenty of good content coming up on our YouTube channel in the coming days. Make sure you go and check out some of our other content. I had a really cool video this week introducing the 5 new transfers that Notre Dame had. Some really good production value as well. So go check out some of our other videos. We'll have more shows and videos coming up in the coming days as well. Definitely lock into our Blue and Gold YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up on the video. Please do subscribe to our channel. Go to blueandgold.com for all your Notre Dame football coverage. All right, that's going to do it for this week's Notre Dame football show. Appreciate you all. And as always, we'll catch you next time.